Hello and welcome to the Digit Style 6-hour battery drain test comparison between two of the latest flagship phones, the iQOO 15 and the Realme GT 8 Pro. Now, if industry insiders are to be believed, the iQOO 15 could be priced around 70,000 rupees just like the GT 8 Pro. And for the asking price, which of these two stands tall when it comes to performance and endurance? We are here to find out. First up, the key specs of both phones on your screens, and as you can see, they are almost identical in terms of hardware. Apart from iQOO's slightly larger display, everything else lines up. The same refresh rates, the same RAM and storage options, the same chipset, and even the same battery capacity. So this really comes down to optimization and efficiency, and it will be interesting to see which one comes out on top by the end. As always, we begin by booting up both devices, and the iQOO 15 is the first to power on. Both phones are connected to the same Wi-Fi network and fully charged. The display resolution is set to auto, the refresh rate is locked at the highest setting, brightness is calibrated to roughly 500 nits using a lux meter, and the audio is set at 50%. Alright, moving on to our 2-hour YouTube video playback test. Now, both the iQOO 15 and the Realme GT 8 Pro come with top-tier displays. Both have Quad HD Plus resolution, 144Hz refresh rate, and bright OLED panels. So on paper, they are evenly matched, and honestly, when you first look at them, they do feel equally sharp and equally premium. The difference shows up in the tuning. Out of the box, the Realme goes for a more natural look. Color feels balanced and closer to real life. The iQOO 15, on the other hand, pushes things a bit more. In some scenes, highlights and colors can look slightly boosted. Not in a bad way, it actually makes the display feel more vibrant and punchy, but you can definitely tell the tuning is different. Where the iQOO really pulls ahead is brightness. The GT 8 Pro is already very bright and more than good enough in any lighting condition, but the iQOO 15 goes a step further. It gets insanely bright, probably the brightest display I have used so far. I could be wrong, but under direct sunlight, I don't think there's a phone out there that looks brighter than the iQOO 15 right now. So while neither phone will give you any trouble outdoors, the iQOO 15 does stand out as the brighter one overall. And with that, we are done with the 2-hour YouTube video playback round, and both phones are currently tied with the 90% battery left. Okay, now it is time to record an hour of 4K video split between the front and rear cameras. Let's start with the rear camera first. 4K 60fps video for around half an hour while the recording is on. Here are the camera specs for both smartphones. The iQOO 15 comes with a new 50 megapixel triple rear camera setup paired with a 32 megapixel front camera. It supports video recording at up to 8K 30 fps from the rear and 4K 60 fps from the front. On the other hand, the Realme GT 8 Pro comes evenly matched with its own 50 megapixel triple rear camera setup paired with a 32 megapixel selfie camera. It also supports video recording at up to 8K 30 fps from the rear and 4K 60 fps from the front. Alright, it is time to wrap up our 30-minute 4K video recording test for using the rear cameras. In terms of thermals, the iQOO 15 peaked at around 39 degrees Celsius while the Realme GT 8 Pro topped out at roughly 38 degrees Celsius. So the GT 8 Pro does show slightly better thermal control here, even if the difference isn't huge. Okay, let's begin the 30-minute 4K video recording test using the front camera, and while that's running, here are some photo samples captured on both phones. With that, we have wrapped up a full hour of 4K video recording, checking temperatures again, and the iQOO 15 actually ran a bit cooler this time, peaking at around 37 degrees Celsius, while the Realme GT 8 Pro stayed close to 38 degrees Celsius. So after 3 hours of continuous testing, the Realme GT 8 Pro holds a very slight lead with 77% battery remaining, while the iQOO 15 sits just behind at 76%. Alright, time to run some benchmarks now to get an idea when put under heavy load, which phone delivers the better performance and of course better endurance. First up, the specs. The iQOO 15 is powered by the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 chip paired with up to 16GB LPDDR5X RAM and 512GB UFS 4.1 storage. On the other hand, the Realme GT 8 Pro is also powered by the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 SoC and comes with up to 16GB LPDDR5X RAM and 512GB UFS 4.1 storage. Starting with Geekbench 6 and based on the scores, the iQOO 15 and Realme GT 8 Pro are virtually identical in single core performance, with the GT 8 Pro being only about 0.3% faster, which is basically the same in day-to-day use. But in multi-core performance, the Realme GT 8 Pro takes a clearer lead, coming in roughly 4.7% faster than the iQOO 15. Moving on to Antutu, the iQOO 15 scored a total of about 3.66 million, while the Realme GT 8 Pro achieved about 3.82 million. That's roughly a 4.2% overall improvement in favor of the GT 8 Pro, which is modest but noticeable lead. The CPU and GPU numbers follow the same pattern as well. The Realme pulls slightly ahead with a 1.11 million CPU score compared to iQOO's 1.06 million and a 1.41 million GPU score versus 1.35 million on the iQOO 15. In the 3D Mark stress test, the iQOO 15 delivers much higher peak performance with a best loop score of about 15,100, but it drops to about 11,350 at its lowest, resulting in 74.8% stability and a wide 48 to 156 FPS range. The Realme GT 8 Pro takes the opposite approach, offering near identical best and lowest loop scores, about 10,000, giving it perfect 100% stability with a steady 54 to 60 FPS output. So the iQOO pushes harder while Realme focuses on consistent sustained performance. Finally, in the CPU throttle test, the Realme GT 8 Pro shows a stronger sustained performance, averaging 388,000 GIPS with an 81% stability score, indicating far less throttling under prolonged load. The iQOO 15, meanwhile, averages 352,000 GIPS with a 57% score, suggesting more aggressive dips when pushed continuously. So while both perform well initially, the GT 8 Pro clearly maintains higher and more stable CPU output over time. Here's a quick look at the scores from the benchmarks round. You can pause and take a look. Now, quick look at the battery stats after 4 hours, and the Realme GT 8 Pro has widened its lead. It is now sitting at 60% battery, while the iQOO 15 has dropped to 53%, giving Realme a clearer advantage at this stage. Now, looking at the benchmark numbers, the Realme GT 8 Pro clearly holds the advantage in stability, while the iQOO 15 pushes harder and delivers higher peaks. But as always, benchmark charts only tell part of the story. In real-world gaming, things are a bit more balanced. Both phones run the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 chip, and they can handle popular titles like BGMI and Call of Duty Mobile at 120 FPS without breaking a sweat. Gameplay is smooth on both, but the iQOO 15 with its more aggressive tuning feels slightly snappier during quick movements and high action moments. The Realme GT 8 Pro meanwhile benefits from its stable behavior, offering consistent performance in longer sessions. Thermals are where the difference becomes clearer. The iQOO 15 tends to warm up faster, likely because it pushes maximum performance early on, mirroring what we saw in the 3D Mark test. The Realme GT 8 Pro stays comparatively cooler and more controlled thanks to its stronger throttling performance. Neither phone overheats, but you'll feel the rise in temperature on the iQOO 15 sooner, especially during back-to-back matches. Overall, both deliver excellent gaming performance. The iQOO 15 suits high-intensity gameplay, while the Realme GT 8 Pro excels in extended sessions. And with that, we have wrapped up the gaming round as well. At this stage, the GT 8 Pro continues to hold its lead with 48% battery remaining, while the iQOO 15 is down to 42%. We're now entering the final stretch of our battery drain test. Up next, I'll be running an hour of Instagram on both phones, but instead of keeping you waiting till the very end, let's fast forward straight to the 6-hour mark. By this point, the Realme GT 8 Pro finishes with 42% battery left, while the iQOO 15 wraps up with 37% battery. Here's a look at the hour-by-hour battery drain comparison for both phones on your screens right now. And the results are fairly clear. Both phones bring their own strengths to the table. While the iQOO 15 stands out with its brighter display, higher peak performance and snappier feel during intensive tasks, the Realme GT 8 Pro delivers more consistent thermals and slightly better efficiency across long sessions. Yes, the Realme GT8 Pro finishes with a bit more battery at the end, but the iQOO 15 counters with stronger bursts of performance and one of the brightest screens you will find on any phone right now. So ultimately, the choice depends on what you value more, sustained efficiency or higher peak power, because both flagships perform exceptionally well throughout this test. And that's it for this battery drain test between the iQOO 15 and the Realme GT8 Pro. Share your thoughts with me in the comments below, and as always, I'll catch you all in the next one. Thank you for watching.